This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and I am previewing the National League wildcard matchup on Wednesday, October the 5th. First pitch scheduled for 8:05 Eastern Time. It is the San Francisco Giants taking on the New York Mets. The San Francisco Giants won the World Series in 2010. They won it in 2012. They won it in 2014. This is supposed to be their year, right? 2016, every 2 years since the turn of this decade. They've been World Series champions. Well, they've got a long way to go, and it all has to start with a wild card win Wednesday night at Citi Field against the Mets. Can they get it? Well, I'll try to tell you whether they can or not as we preview this game. We've got one hell of a pitching matchup here. Madison, Bumgarner, Noah Syndergaard, Mad Bum versus Thor, if you want to go by the pet names that these two guys have been associated with during their careers. Madison Bumgarner, to me, boy, he's just been, in the postseason, when the games have mattered the most, he has not been an easy guy to bet against. When you look at Madison Bumgarner's track record in the playoffs, dating back to 2010 with this Giants team, 2.14 ERA for him. During that span, just dominant numbers. And when you look at his ability in the 2014 World Series against the Kansas City Royals to just pitch big for this team time and time again in big games, he's a tough guy to go against here, at least for me. Now, the Giants do have concerns, but Madison Bumgarner ain't one of them. And I can tell you, you can't look at me in the eyes with a straight face and say to me that the San Francisco Giants beat Kansas City in that 2014 World Series without Madison Bumgarner. He carried the Giants on his back 10 times over to win that World Series. They don't even sniff that championship that 2 years ago without Madison Bumgarner and his heroic performances throughout that World Series and throughout that entire postseason for the San Francisco Giants. And when you look at what he's been able to do this season, he's had another very, very solid season. There's no denying that. A 2.74 ERA. The one slight concern is his road ERA is 3.39, which is still pretty good, but it's more than a run higher than his home ERA at AT&T Park. So he's not been quite as sharp or as dominant as Madison Bumgarner been on the road for the San Francisco Giants. That being said, Bumgarner in 2 starts this season against the New York Mets. San Francisco won both games 2-0 in Madison Bumgarner's 2 previous starts against the Mets, one here at Citi Field, one at AT&T Park, and the Citi Field start back in May. 6 innings, 6-hit shutout ball thrown by Madison Bumgarner in that game. Giants win it 6-1. That was back in May. He's a very, very difficult guy in this kind of situation because he's always responded in the big moments. And I have a feeling he might here in this particular game. On the flip side, I'm not exactly rushing to bet against Noah Syndergaard here for the New York Mets either, who's also had a very good postseason track record last year pitching for this New York Mets team. And he's a guy that also, when you look at it, a guy that's really given his all and been at his best when the games have mattered the most. His ERA slightly over 3 lifetime in the postseason last year for the New York Mets. His home numbers at Citi Field, he's absolutely loved pitching in this ballpark. A 2.87 ERA for Syndergaard in 16 home starts this season. And then it's really going to come down to which of these 2 lineups can get those clutch hits. We know San Francisco's lineup has underachieved most of the season. Remember, early in the year, San Francisco was crushing the ball. I was raving about how good this lineup was with Posey and Pence and Belt and Span at the top of the order. Crawford, I thought that, and Panic. I thought this lineup at the beginning of the season was looking like they'd be one of the better lineups in the National League, but they just didn't sustain it for most of the season. They're going to have to be able to come up with clutch hits against Syndergaard, and similarly, the New York Mets are going to have to come up with clutch hits. And let's not forget, this lineup, they've had some of its punch taken out of it. I know they've still got, Yoenis Cespedes, Jose Reyes has given them some decent offense from this Mets lineup down the stretch. They've obviously going to have to count on a few other guys here in this lineup because, again, David Wright leader of this team, the veteran on this team. He's been out since July. Neil Walker, a key bat in this lineup, he went out due to injury back in August. Wilmer Flores, the very good shortstop on this Mets team, he's going to be out for the rest of the season due to a wrist inflammation injury. So, this Mets lineup has had a couple of key bats taken out of it. We'll see if they're able to make some noise here against Madison, Bumgarner. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do think there could be an edge late in the game for the New York Mets. Similar to what I mentioned about the Blue Jays and Orioles series, where I thought Baltimore's bullpen would have an edge over Toronto late in the game, I think we could see the same here with the Mets bullpen. I mean, I am not ready, to be honest with you, to trust the San Francisco Giants bullpen to get outs for me. Period. I mean, this Giants bullpen, it was a little bit better last week of the season, but overall, since the All-Star break, this has been one of, if not the worst bullpen in baseball. Haven't been able to get key outs when they've needed them. Contos, Sergio Romo's been hit or miss. Will Smith's been a bit of a disappointment since they got him. Hunter Strickland, inconsistent. Santiago Casilla hasn't been as good in the closer role for the Giants. An aging Javier Lopez has really been hit around in that Giants bullpen as well. Just not a lot of arms I trust right now in that San Francisco bullpen. So if this game is close late, the New York Mets might have an edge with their bullpen. They've had some relievers that have been a little bit more steady coming out of that bullpen for this team. Addison Reed's been very good. Fernando Salas, for the most part, has gotten the job done. And, of course, when it's all said and done, it's been a pretty good year once again for Jeurys Familia in the closer role for the New York Mets. So you have to give, at least I have to give the Mets a little bit of an edge late with their bullpen if it's close. So that is why if I'm betting this game, and again, these are very, very slight opinions. These are leans for me. I don't have a strong betting opinion on either wildcard game, but I'll give you some leans for this game. If I'm betting this one, I would probably look to San Francisco in the first 5 innings in this game at around this even money price tag with Madison Bumgarner. I do think he is going to deliver. He is going to bring his A game. He's done it every single time just about in the postseason, as evidenced by that 2.14 ERA in the playoffs for Bumgarner, which is just outstanding. Good numbers against the Mets this season when he faced them, but I don't trust that bullpen, and I want to take that bullpen out of the betting equation if I can, and that's exactly what I'm going to look to do. So I'll lean to the San Francisco Giants in the first 5 innings in this game. As for the total, it's sitting at 6, shaded to the under, -120, -125. This could very well be a 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 game. It wouldn't shock me with the caliber of starters that are involved. But if I'm looking under, I'm looking first 5 innings once again, because I don't trust the Giants bullpen to get outs and put zeros on the board in the latter stages. They just haven't shown me enough at all in the second half of the season to be able to trust them. So very tricky for me to go over the total of 6 for the full game, especially when you have to lay -120 on that under at 6 runs. So if you bet under, I would probably prefer that first 5 innings as well. If you're going to bet the total full game, I'd almost want to take a shot over 6 runs, because the bullpens, especially on the San Francisco side, not exactly trustworthy. That would be the concern. And we've seen a lot of times in these playoff games, you have these 2 aces on the mound, 2 great pitchers, total sitting at 5.5, 6, or 6.5, and the game ends up flying over the total. It's honestly happened quite a bit in the last couple of years in the playoffs, and so that is why there's a certain threshold I have when betting baseball unders, and 6 is just not too low at that point for me to bet an under for the full game. I think if you liked a lower scoring pitcher's duel, and we could very easily see that with Mad Bum and with Thor here, I would be more inclined to look first 5 under than for the full game. All right, that is my look at the National League wildcard game between the Giants and the Mets. I will be back later this week with more MLB betting preview playoff videos. We'll be looking at the division series in both the American League and National League later this week. I'm Ian Cameron.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.